Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lana and in the last 2 years I made 3 pairs of historical stays/corsets. In this video I'll talk a little bit about them, how I made them, and what I learned through making them. Let's start with the first pair, which is really bad, but it was very educational. It is a finished product, but I consider it a mock-up essentially. It's made of old cotton duvet covers and has only 2 layers. It's entirely hand-sewn. For the boning, I used plastic zip ties, but the boning channels, as you can see, are very wide, and the zip ties kind of dance around quite a bit in there, so not that great. This pair actually has the most accurate strap placement, since they are moved pretty far back into the shoulders, but this is kind of on accident, and they aren't that comfortable though, because the stays were designed the other way around. What is the front here was intended as the back. Also, the neckline is pretty low, which is not a personal favorite, but historically, that is how it's supposed to be, even a bit lower perhaps. Now the eyelet holes are pretty much a disaster on this one. There's only 8 of them on each side, as you can see, and there were some holes in the fabric already, which I for some reason didn't bother fixing. To reinforce this area, there is a faux leather strip in this section where the eyelet holes are on both sides, and I think that was a pretty good decision, albeit very random. The fact that I felt like I needed to include something like this was essentially telling me that I didn't add enough layers and/or used unsuitable fabric. Otherwise, the fit is not that bad overall. It gives you a pretty conical, elongated shape that looks like it could come from the early 18th century, if it wasn't for the awful fabric, of course. It fits me well, but it's almost a bit too loose, and the fabric definitely needs more structure and layering. You can also see that I didn't have enough of this blue ribbon to put around, so some areas are just hemmed but not covered in ribbon as the border. I definitely improved a lot of things with this next pair. These grey stays are made of 4 layers of thickly woven cotton, and it really shows in the shape and sturdiness of the garment. It almost holds a shape on its own. It's not too stiff, but it definitely shapes your body better than the first one. This one is also entirely hand-sewn. The boning channels here are narrower, so that the bones don't move around, but instead sit snugly in their channels. But some of these boning channels are perhaps not sewn in the most optimal places, I learned. As you can see, there is some bunching happening here around the sides. It's not bothersome in terms of comfort, but it doesn't look that nice. Again, I used plastic zip ties because they do a great job and offer a cheaper alternative to actual boning. This pair of stays already has more eyelet holes, which is also a great improvement since the garment can fit your body better that way. The front is a little high and the corset does have a tendency to sit quite high too, meaning that the waistline sits a bit higher than I had anticipated, and consequently there is a bit too much fabric from the waist up. That's also why the straps, as you can see, are a little bit loose. Overall, I do like this one, and there is an immense change in terms of the fit from the first one. This is much better. But it is important to note that the problems with the fit in both of these stays are due to the fact that they were designed to be laced in the back originally. You can also tell by the ties on the straps. They're in the back, and they're supposed to be in the front. That's also why the back now sits pretty low on both of them. But I finally fixed that problem when I made my 3rd pair of stays. This garment is made of 3 layers. 2 layers of this dark brown cotton that you can see on the inside, and 1 layer of beige cotton twill. All of these materials are repurposed fabrics. The twill used to be old trousers, and the brown cotton was gifted to me from an older family friend. This corset is half machine and half hand sewn. The boning channels are machine sewn, and the individual pieces are joined together by machine stitching too. The peach satin border strip is hand felled onto the stays around the border, and the eyelets are also made by hand. This is my favorite and, in my opinion, my best pair of stays so far. It's very comfortable because I finally redrafted the pattern, so the new pattern that was used for making these stays is actually much better, and of course the biggest improvement is the back. That actually is higher on this one, while the front lacing was meant to be front lacing from the start. This one has around 20 eyelet holes on each side, so it ties together really well and it sits together very snugly. The twill makes it a little bit thicker, but that's not really a problem. It's not as compact as the gray stays because of different materials, but it still fits very snugly and gives you a nice shape, just like it's supposed to. The straps are a little loose again, but not as much as on the gray one. I have worn this one just casually around the house, just to see if I can wear a pair of stays for the entire day, and it's really comfortable. It's easy to do a lot of things in it, just everyday stuff. I've also worn it under my historical garments, where I think it did a really good job too. The only thing that I don't particularly like about this stays is that I think I made the front a little bit too long and too wide, but that's not really a problem when you wear skirts and bodices over it, so I'm fine with that being sort of the only bigger flaw. So here are all my 3 stays. They taught me that tweaking patterns along the way is very important and that nothing is going to look perfect the first time you make it. Practice makes better. Also, make sure to bone your stays properly. Add enough eyelet holes for a better fit. Definitely choose the right fabrics and try the mock-up on several times to make sure that it really fits you as well as it can. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something new or that this video inspired you to get creative and finally do that project that you've been putting off for so long, whether it's sewing or something else entirely. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more similar content. I make costume commentary and sew some garments of my own. I'll see you soon.